Well, g'day gang. I've had the old girl for 13 years now, and I think it's time for an oil change. No, it's had oil changes since then. No, it's annual oil change. I do an oil change once a year. I did it when I got the car. Changed the oil, all that stuff, everything was all new when it was all gone through and stuff like that, so I got a record of everything. I changed the oil once a year because it only does 1,000 maybe. I take the oil that comes out of that and I put it in the bowl sub. It's still good oil, but I like to make sure that this has got the best in it because it's got to hang around for a while. And an oil filter I change every second year, and that's because it's quite a task to get to. It's more than just climb underneath and whack up there with a filter wrench and whack her off. There's a bit involved in that. I don't know whether you're interested in coming along. But yeah, I'm jacked up, ready to climb underneath it. My oil of choice is that one, not sponsored. My filter of choice, that one, not sponsored. For the guys that come from the Americas, I guess oil must be cheap because I did a video a while back of what happens when you don't change your oil, and I think a lot of you guys saw it, and there was a lot of comments of it's only $20 to change the oil. Well, it's not. I'm telling you now. On that particular vehicle it was more than what it cost for this one, but those two items there cost me $60. That's trade price. Now, if you're going with that engine we had on there, that alloy tech, that's a full synthetic, and this is just a mineral. A full synthetic costs you much more. So, you know, it's like $70 in oil. And people wonder why it gets expensive to just change your oil in Australia. Anyway, so enough of that. We're going to start with changing the battery because the alternator's got to come off to get the filter off. I'll disconnect the battery, not change it. I'll get the wheels off and we'll get back to you. Okay, so the first thing I've got to do is got to remove the alternator. I changed the oil filter first on Holden V8s because if the oil pump drains out, you've got to remove the pump, pack it in Vaseline, you know, go through the procedures. So I changed the filter first. That way there's oil still in the pickup, the sump level is still full, and it doesn't want to drain out. And Holden, in their wisdom, if you're not familiar with what a Holden V8 is, it's got a filter that comes out the front of the engine. Oil pump sits on the side like a Buick, I think, so Buick ones. A Hemi's also had one that come out the side, and the filter is up in the front there. And if you have a look, I'll show you under here. There's the oil pump, and there's the cross member, and there's the oil filter, and you can't get it out of there. It's just, you're just not going to do it. So it's the only way around it. You can't get it from the top either. I'll show you that. No, it's just not. It's easier just to remove the alternator. That's why I have to disconnect the battery off it. So with the air inlet tube gone out of the way and the alternator now gone out of the way, there he is on the ground. I peep up over here. There he is. There's our oil filter. I can quite simply get my hand on it from there. Move that adjusting rod up out of the way, and that's plenty of room. Belt's in good shape. As you see, Ryko, that's the only one for me. I don't see any signs of water leaks or anything horrible around in there, so that's a good thing. While the alternator is off, I'll take him inside, just because we've got it off, and just because we have one, I think we have one, in here somewhere. I think there, is that it? I think that's it. Methinkus. Brand new. Yeah. We'll plop him in before the alternator goes back on. Back outside. Now, I'm just going to prime up the filter. I do like to put some in the filter. Yeah, it's not as scary as you kind of think. Because what do they call those Ford horrible engines? If you're changing the oil and if you're changing the oil in that thing and you let it sit for more than 10 minutes, you're going to have no oil pressure. The oil pump just won't pick it up. So just keep that in mind if you have one of those. Alright, I'll just let that level itself out and we'll go back out and change it over. Hold on, is out. New one is in. Underneath there is fairly straightforward to try and to drop the oil out, so I'll come back when I get to the next step. We'll make that the alternator. So now we're all cleaned up and our filter's on. I'll just show you towards the front on the other side of the cross member. If you're wondering if we couldn't change it from there, no, you can't. You barely. You can't, I don't think you can see it. So that's why we've got to do that. Let's see. We suffer with the same wasps, mud wasps. They're everywhere under this. They don't live here. They didn't come from here. They came from this, where I got this carpet, so in the bush. So yeah. Next bit's pretty simple. Now, there was nothing wrong with the way it charged, but I have one and I'm here. I won't toss this one out. I'm going to need two hands so I can see it, because this is spring loaded and it's going to boing all over the joint. I used to do this to Mitsubishis whilst they were still in the car. Yeah, well, it's probably not a bad idea. Well, we'll get the new one, we'll have a look. Yeah, I think it's probably a good idea. Yeah, okay. So we'll pop him in. That's going to take two hands because I won't be able to load that up on my with one fingers. And just like that, we'll probably bin that fella. Well, the alternator's on and sump is full according to the dipstick. Let's see, I used to get 45, a touch over 45 at idle, cold, and that was with the 50 weight. Now we've gone to 60 weight. The reason is because when it's hot or when it warms up, it's got very little pressure, but that's indicative of a Holden V8. And we'll just make sure we got charging amps. Well, we're not charging for some reason. We have more oil pressure. Let me go. I think I forgot. I'll tell you why it's not charging. I know exactly why. Because I forgot to hook up the magic wire. That should fix it. Hang on, I'll just close the front door. The missus doesn't like all the petrol smell inside, so she might have already done it. Maybe I'm running too much strife. There we go. They're charging now. That's pretty groovy. I'm happy with that. Cool bananas. Next step. While the wheels are off. You might remember when I did the calipers up? Well, I should have at the time probably machined them, but I should have at the time probably pulled the wheel bearings out and had a look at them on the inside of the other rotor on the other side there. I did notice what looked like some grease, and so we're got some new seals. We'll pull these off and yeah, repack the bearings, and yeah, we'll see what happens from there. I'll just double check the oil level and so forth before I go any further, and then we'll start whipping the rotor off. And there we go. And we can see that she's been leaking out a bit. It's got a fair bit of irk in it. It may have started to go on a rotor. It doesn't really look like it's done any damage to it, but I'll clean all that stuff off. This fella should just slide out of here like that. This fella should just pop off here. Just pop off here like that. That was almost stuck to there. Not supposed to be stuck to there. It's supposed to be more stuck to there. Alright, we've got new seals. Go and clean up this mess. Let's take a quick break for lunch. Back shortly. Okay, so I cleaned up in here. It looks pretty good. There's no right or wrong way to clean a bearing. I've got some thinners here. I don't normally wear a glove, but when it comes to thinners and putting my hands in thinners, I'm going to clean it out with that, inspect them, both of them, and then we'll pack them up. There's no wrong or right way to do that, but there is to pack them. So there we go, all nice and clean. A bit of a palm packer, so I need 2 hands for that. I'll pack them up nicely. Here's the thing I've found is that a lot of people, when they pack a bearing, they tend to want to fill this cavity in here full of grease. Now that's not a good idea, because what ended up happening is exactly what happened here, and that is that there was nowhere for the grease to get out once it expands from the heat. And you can see it has been hot in some spots. We're going to fix that up too in a sec. So you don't really need to put anything in there. As long as you pack these bearings up really, really well and put a bit in the cap there, it'll work its way. You know, it'll work its way to the bearing. As it heats up, it it's going to fling up in here anyway. As it cools down, it gets back on the bearing. And I'm gonna fix that up now. I think what I'll do is I'll do that before I clean it up any further. And I think what I'm going to do is get some. What do we got here? 40 grit. 40 grit and the sander. That'll do it. Okay, with our bearings packed, and I've got my little cap up there, drying. Usually just give a dollop on my finger. Just run it around the inside there, making sure that I cover the seat. But whatever stays in there is what stays in there. Whatever comes out, comes out. I don't pack it full of stuff, as you can see. It's just a little bit in there. So we're going to go outside now, and we'll put him back up to the car. The finger for the grease is the same as the other side. I just get a bit of it. You don't need a lot. And just do that. Whatever stays, stays. Whatever comes out, comes out. And that's the way she goes. All nice and clean now. Yeah. So now we'll put the other bits up. Put the rotor on. And adjust the bearing up. Adjustment time. I like to just, I'm not actually pushing on it, I'm just letting it go there. And you see that hole there? We'll come back to it. That's it. Done. Put our split pin through, knock the cap back on, caliper back on, wheel done. Before I put the caliper on, I'm going to wipe that all down and make sure it's all the surface is all nice and clean. I don't know whether or not my orbital sanders helped it out any, but it can't hurt any. That's the whole point of that. So do you put any in there? I do, a little bit. I see a lot of people fill them right up. I'll just get like a scoop. That's going to probably about third fill it, and that'll be plenty. Because I don't want it going out all over the joint again. There we go, all wiped off, all adjusted, ready for the caliper to go back on. And that job, that side's done. And there we are, ready for the wheel to go back on. And that's the way that goes. I feel a lot better now I've done that. That's that whole area, all the ball joints, tire ends, everything. Calipers overhauled, wheel bearings repacked, new axle seal, like tire ends, rack ends, everything's all been replaced in it now. So I got no problems to worry about any of that for a long time. Probably longer than I'll ever have it. So we'll put the wheel back on and she's done. Job done. Here's the other side. As you can see, it's on its way to leaking, and when you have a look inside there, you can see it's packed, full. And that's what happens. It's got nowhere to escape. It's got nowhere to expand to. It tried to expand to the cap, but the cap's chockers too, so it's got to get out somewhere. So this will get the same treatment as the other one. And put it back on. And just in case you're wondering or you're thinking, see, you're crazy putting that whole oil in your pulsar. I've been doing that for 13 years. Comes out of the Chevy into the pulsar. So, what do you got to say about that one? Happy yourselves a goodie. Check you later. Cheers.